Welcome, everyone, to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and tonight my guest host is going to be Ron, my husband, and we have a great guest for you guys all tonight. So we're going to bring up Linda Curino. She's coming back. This has been her, I don't even know how many times. Doesn't even matter anymore. So we're going to talk to Linda, and we're going to find out what in the world is going on in her world.
Oh, gosh. You know what? Thank you so much for having me on. And it was hilarious when you said a great guest. I'm thinking, me? I'm a great guest? Thank you.
Well, you're a great friend.
Well, that's true. So are you.
So
are you.
I was just thinking about it again today, that this is about the time of year that you made pork chop for us, because we had the baby shower in September of 2017.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Seems like forever ago. It's so weird, isn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So weird.
And for those of you who don't know, pork chop is a stuffed pig that that Linda made through her business. What is it called? I know it's Use.
Yes, Love Use and Crafty Critters.
And it is the cutest thing. She put overalls on him, made him a little bucket hat, like Gilligan, and put Ruby's name on there. And it is so, I think it's Ruby. No, we put Pork Chop on there because we didn't know what his name was going to be.
Right.
That was his nickname.
Yeah. What's funny is that I called him Pork Chop the whole time she was pregnant with him. And now I call him Monkey.
That's funny how that works.
It didn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens.
It just didn't fit, but he loves pork chop.
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad to hear it. That was a labor of love.
Oh, I love it. I think it's cute. So,
thank you.
Hello, Mom. Ron's mom is in the house. So we have different, listeners again. And I'd like to let everybody know that you're seeing us live on Things Network. This is new to us. We just went live last week on Things Network, and this is our second time. So I'd like to welcome all the Things Network listeners to the Paranormal Pride. And please, anybody who out there that's listening, questions are welcome. Answers are free. And if we don't have an answer, we will find one for you and get back to you. So please feel free to ask questions. So since we've got another network of people, how did you get started in the paranormal?
Well, I kind of just fell into the paranormal because I had paranormal experiences when I was just a kid. That, of course, I shared liberally with my friends in kindergarten, and they thought I was crazy, or so I thought. And then, of course, they would sort of take me aside and say, yeah, so I said in front of everybody else that you were a little crazy, but I've had experiences of my own. So it just kind of escalated from there. I mean, I really just fell into it. I became known as sort of the ghost lady, which I thought was really fun. And then it followed me throughout grade school, high school. And then when I was 18, I decided that I was going to do this on my own. And that's sort of how it all started. So really, when I was 18 was when I had a tape recorder, because back then we didn't have digital anything. So I had, your tape recorder, and I had one of those cameras with the flash cubes on the top. You remember those?
Mm-hmm. 126, 110, and 35 millimeter. Very few 35 millimeters had the cubes, though.
I'm telling you, and really that, and a pad of paper. And I even had, I think I was maybe way before my time, because I really thought about frequencies even when I was, that young. So I took a little transistor radio that I had, and I used to put it between stations so that you would hear that shh kind of sound. And I would bring that with me on investigations to see if maybe some voices would come through. And every once in a while, a voice actually did come through. So that was kind of cool. That's sort of the poor man's SB7 or whatever.
Did the words ever make any sense?
Yeah, they actually did make sense. It actually scared me when they started to make sense. So I stopped using one of those because I thought, gosh, this is weird. I mean, I was kind of scared. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I thought, let's try this again. And I would get things like yes and no answers. I wouldn't get anything major. I wouldn't get any sentences, but I did get yes and no answers. And one time I actually got my name come through. And I thought that was interesting. I thought, okay, somebody remembers. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting because I could hear things every once in a while when I was a kid, and I saw spirits when I was a kid, and then that kind of went away. I couldn't see them after a while. I guess when I was about maybe 8 or 9, I couldn't see them anymore. But every once in a while, I could hear something, and it seemed to me that they were coming through on a different frequency. And that's why I started using my little transistor radio. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, that's how they started the little shack hack things was, just dialing through the stations as fast as you can go.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and I've never really, I've heard some stuff through those, but not that much. I have a problem with the
right. I know.
it's hard to
it's hard to
focus on it. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like today with Lindsay's dog barking.
Oh,
hard
God.
to focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean?
I do.
It's hard to listen to stuff sometimes with all the other stuff in the background, regardless of what it is.
Yes.
And I think sometimes that's the best part of the paranormal investigating is that you get to focus on one thing or multiple things, but in a quiet environment most of the time. We've all got so much stuff going on around us. And then when you get into a paranormal environment where you have all this stuff happening around you again, but in a different way, it's really interesting.
That's really true. That's true. And now with all of those devices, the SP7 is a prime example with that. When you listen to that for hours, you go a little like squirrely.
Yeah.
You really do.
That's why I tell people don't do it in small sessions because, you got to go back and listen to all this stuff later. And if it's 12 hours long,
right.
Why we use Echo Vox a lot. It's
real time.
It's not near as bad.
No.
I guess we're just used to it. It's not bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can understand it a lot easier.
Well, that's true. Sometimes you think you hear things, but you really don't. It's that, what do they call it? Audio pareidolia or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's one thing, like when he's watching TV. I'm sitting here. I can't always see the TV because I'm working.
Right.
And he'll play a show and they'll have on there, somebody doing a session and they're going, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't hear anything."
I know. They'll put the word there or the words, and it's like, I didn't hear that.
So I'm not paying attention really to what it is, but I don't hear it.
I'll even turn it up.
And then, but if I do hear something, I'll say what it is, and it won't match up. But no. I think a lot of it is syllables. They hear the syllables, and they think that that's what they're hearing. If you have 2-syllable word, they're saying "get out."
Right.
Or go away. Well, if it's 3, they're saying go away. But it's like we always teased back in the day when Ghost Adventures went to the Villisca Axe Murder House and they got an EVP and it said, "I killed 6 kids." And I was like, that's not what I heard. And, we've been to the Villisca Axe Murder House multiple times. I've never gotten anything like that. And yes, 6 kids did die. But is it wishful thinking sometimes? The audio pareidoia.
Yeah, I think it is. And actually, somebody recently had said to me, I think that, you can will things to happen, and you can certainly kind of transfer your energy through whatever the, I guess the transmission, and it could say whatever is going through your head. So don't take it to be gospel. And
Yeah.
certainly, like, yeah, no, people do this all the time. I know what you mean. And I love when they put the words up on the screen on all these shows, because
Yeah.
you're listening to it and you're going, oh, well, that sounds really strange. And then, of course, you see the words. And of course, you're immediately going to go, oh, okay, well, I can, I guess so.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't want to watch while they're doing this. I want to hear it, and then because another time, Ghost Adventures got an EVP at McPike Mansion, and it's my voice,
Oh,
and I wasn't there.
oh, wow.
But I'm sitting here. We were at the old house. I'm sitting there working, and I go, "That sounds like me."
yeah,
And
she wasn't even watching the show. I was.
And he rolls it back, and he goes, "Oh my God, it does."
Wow. That's cool.
She goes, "What are you watching?" I said, "The McPike episode." And she goes, "I wasn't even there." I said, "I know."
Yeah, we were with Tom McNicholas at
Ashmore.
At Ashmore,
Yeah.
well, not at Ashmore Estates, but we were in Mattoon, Illinois,
Right.
with Tom McNicholas, who actually has a question that we're going to ask right now. And his question is how do you feel about the popularity of the Estes method?
Yeah, it's interesting you should ask that question, because my team and I were thinking that we have to try it. I'd love to try that method. What I like about the method is that, most of the time, sometimes they're not on these shows, but most of the time they're blindfolded. They've got the headphones on. They're listening to the spirit box, but there's nothing around them that's really influencing, anything. So what they hear is what they say. But again, we're not fail proof. Humans are certainly not fail proof. What if it doesn't say, my wife says you're cute? I mean, what if it doesn't say that?
Yeah, they're just saying words.
They're saying words.
Sentences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing on TV. They never show you or explain to you what's not valid.
Right. Well, sure.
Yes.
Well, sure.
I look at that stuff sometimes and go, okay, I did. We were in Joplin, Missouri, and Katie Stafford brought his God's helmet type thing.
Oh yeah.
And of
Are you
course,
familiar with that?
So yeah, so they put this helmet on you, and it's just got all these flashing lights.
Right.
Okay, just think of a migraine instigator.
Uh-oh.
That's what it is. But
yeah, I was a little concerned when.
But I was, I had told him, you have to bring this so I can try it. And so I was the first one. And they put me in a chair and we do this. And they're going, what do you see? And I was like, nothing. I got to keep my eyes closed. I don't get a migraine. But we had a nurse there because she was concerned that with my heart condition, that it might be a problem.
Yeah.
But they said, just sit there with this helmet on. You got the flashing lights that can cause you to have what is it?
A seizure?
Seizure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, got this on me. I'm sitting there and they go, okay, so what do you see? And I go, nothing yet. And I mean, a little bit later, I did start seeing stuff, but I just wonder how much of that was hallucinations brought on by the flashing lights.
Right.
How much of that was me wanting to see something? Because, Lisa did it next, who was the nurse that was there.
Yeah.
She did it next, and she talked about seeing, it's kind of like she was seeing Wizard of Oz, those women riding by on a bike.
She had it on longer than you did too.
Yeah, I was in it for like 20 minutes.
This is wild.
And she was about 30. But yeah, she sat there and talked about all the stuff she saw, and I'm like, okay, I didn't see anything. But again, I don't know if the place that we were at was really haunted.
Right.
Even though anytime anybody went up to the projection booth, it was a theater. Anytime anybody went up to the projection booth, they got sick to their stomach. Oh. And I don't know if it's because it was straight up, but
it did look like somebody was up there. Mm-hmm. And I thought somebody actually was.
It was just a really old theater on Route 66.
Oh, wow.
But Tom, when it comes down to the Estes method, I want to try it again. I've done it. We did it with Carl and Gary and Ron at a place that's no longer standing at the it used to be a theater in Polo.
Oh yeah, Polo.
It is a fireworks stand, and the wind blew it down. Eventually, it was a really old building in Polo, Missouri.
Oh wow!
And, one bad day, it was gone. But that was neat that we got to go.
Roller rink.
Funeral home. Hardware store.
Yep, hardware.
Is that all right, Carl?
Fireworks.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Wow. And so recently, I know that you guys did some investigating. Where did you investigate?
Oh, my goodness. Well, let me think. We went actually to a really cool place called Buck Hill Road, which is near Round Lake, Ontario. So it's closer to Ottawa and sort of northwest of Ottawa. And this road has a really interesting history. So apparently way back when, during the Depression, at the base of this particular road, which is a country road, there was a house, and a gentleman lived there with his daughter. And of course it was cold, and he needed firewood, and he opened the door to go out and get firewood, and the dog took off and escaped, and his daughter, ran after the dog, and they were both never to be seen again. So, of course, there is some kind of a strange story associated with this. And people believe that if they drive to the top of Buck Hill Road and they stop, they turn off the car, but they flash their lights 3 times and they yell in Polish, because it was a Polish settlement, daddy, 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 3 times, you will see a lantern emerge at the bottom of the hill. And that's supposedly the lantern that the man is carrying when he went out searching for his daughter and the dog. So we thought, well, how cool is that? So we went with another team. We went with a team called Black Moon Paranormal, and they're out of Aurelia. And there were a couple of other people that were from another team near Ottawa that went with us. And it was kind of interesting because we went there. We stayed in a converted schoolhouse overnight, so we had a place to crash. We didn't know what time we were going to get home, of course, but we went late at night, set everything up. We didn't flash our lights or anything, but we did flash a flashlight and yell, of course, in Polish. And I can't remember what daddy was in Polish, but it was interesting. We didn't see anything. We were there for a very long time. We experienced a few odd things. For example, one of the investigators had brought a little, kind of like a REM pod, but it was a little music box that would go off if someone was around. That went off multiple times, which was interesting. And almost in response to some of our questions. And then the most compelling thing was, a few hours later, we kept hearing knocking on trees. We kept hearing sticks and all of that stuff, just, clicking in the distance. And then myself and this girl, Crystal, who runs Black Moon, we were standing there, and you know how you get that pervasive feeling, and I know, being a paranormal investigator, you're going to know exactly what I mean, that pervasive feeling that says, it's time to go.
Mhm.
We got that. And the strangest thing was, we looked at each other and we heard this low grunt, and it was very ape-like, and it sounded like, huh, one of those. And we looked at each other, and she said, yeah, I think it's time to go. And then it happened again. So we all kind of just quietly picked up all of our stuff, got in our cars, and went back to this little converted schoolhouse, and talked about it. And it was so odd how the atmosphere there changed, and it became more of a cryptid thing than an actual ghost thing, which I thought was pretty fascinating. It was quite an interesting area. And there's a lot going on there. It's near a town called Wilno, Ontario, which, again, was a Polish settlement. And there is an actual vampire cemetery in that location, which I thought was interesting. The team, Black Moon, had gone there previously on an investigation, and there were a couple of graves, one in particular that had an iron cage around the grave, of course, kind of into the ground. It was screwed into the ground. And it was gone when we were there. So I think somebody had complained about it, or maybe they got more people at this place and they were a little concerned that there might be vandalism or whatever. But the screws were still in the ground. The cage was gone. But, there's always, in places like that, there's always some sort of weird, strange feeling. And we did feel that we were being watched and followed. And it was just a weird weekend, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What's funny that you say that about the caged grave, because after we went to see a cousin of mine,
stole it too.
my cousin sent me a picture and said, is this normal? I said, not in the United States. I said, but it is in other countries. And I knew exactly what it was. But it was weird that you should say that, because this just happened in the last 2 weeks. He sent me this picture.
Freaky, right?
So, I can see it. I mean, it was probably these big, thick straps of metal going in one direction and then a grid-like.
Yes.
So, and more than likely, it could be that the people of the town said, we're tired of these people roaming around in our cemeteries at night looking for somebody that's not there. At least in their mind, it's not there.
Yes.
So that's what happened in Stoll, Kansas. They tore down the chapel that was there because people kept going out there to do rituals that they shouldn't have been doing, saying it was the sixth gateway to hell or whatever. And the people of the town said, we're tired of this crap. Tear it down, and anybody that comes into town to go to that graveyard better have a family, have a family member buried there, or they're getting tickets. And they didn't goof off with that stuff.
No, it was a very odd place to be as well, because when you read up on the history of that particular location, and when you realize that it was a Polish settlement, they were very Roman Catholic, and there are many crossroads in that area, and there is at each of these crossroads, they have erected, or had erected, still there, huge, massive crosses. It's the creepiest thing. I mean, when you're going home at like 2:00 in the morning and you wander past these crossroads with these huge crosses. I mean, they're huge crucifixes, and it's just the creepiest, weirdest, odd thing. Yeah, it's very weird. The feeling is odd.
It must be some sort of ritual that was important back in the day for safety.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, crossroads, there's all of these weird things about crossroads and how the devil is at the crossroads. And so they obviously were very, very superstitious people and erected these massive crosses to kind of combat that devil thing going on there. And I thought it was very strange, because you do feel that there's something there, that something is watching you, that there's something, I won't say evil, but it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good.
So what? So when is Linda Q Bigfoot Hunter going to come out?
Right? I know. That was the first time that.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you had any other experiences or?
No, not with cryptids. I mean, we have some great stories locally up here in Georgina, which is like a little more than an hour north of Toronto. We have these really weird experiences happening where people are reporting what they call skinwalkers, but they're really not true skinwalkers. They look like almost alien creatures, but they're very cryptid descriptions because they look like naked men on all fours, completely hairless, with large heads and big eyes. So if you actually Google something called the rake, that's what it looks like. And people, multiple people now have actually reported seeing this thing in and around, all the little towns here in Georgina. And people are terrified. I mean, they won't go for a walk after a certain time because they're terrified they're going to run into these weird cryptid skinwalker type things. So aside from the skinwalkers, this is the first little cryptid thing that's ever happened to us.
With the skinwalkers, is it the indigenous people? Did they start this story of the rakes?
It's interesting because when I started the Paranormal Society up here in 2012, I was really unaware of anyone coming into contact with anything like that. But I was aware that there are a lot of stories about, indigenous, I'm going to say creatures, really, because we do have a lot of Chippewa up here. We do have Georgina Island, so it's the Chippewas of Georgina Island. So there are a lot of stories about things like that up here, but nobody had ever reported this until about, I'm going to say maybe 2015. And then the reports started to become more rampant. And recently we actually had one where this lady was taking her dog to the dog park. And it was really early in the morning. I guess she was going to work. And it was very strange. Her dog stopped completely, didn't bark, didn't growl, anything like that. She saw this thing come out of the dog park and race in front of them. And the dog didn't move, but sort of stared at this thing, was terrified, I would assume. And it just kind of hopped and flew into the canal and just splashed and took off, which I thought was strange. And I said, well, do you think it was a dog? And she said, oh no, dogs don't look like that. And I thought, well, I mean, we have coyotes and stuff like that up here. Was it a coyote? And she said, nope, it wasn't a coyote or anything like that with mange. It looked like a man on all fours. And I thought, well, that's really strange. And again, that was relatively recently. So it's odd. I mean, we do have a lot of indigenous stories, and we have indigenous people up here. We're a region of indigenous happenings and people, which is incredibly rich and incredibly wonderful. And they have great stories. But this weird skinwalker type thing is very strange, very strange.
That's one of the things that I have not witnessed anything. Well, yeah, I have, but not like that. I have to say, it's odd. I just wonder how much of that is. I want to go with wishful thinking and drinking.
Right? I wonder about that too. I mean, this is Canada up here. Cannabis is legal. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things that you just wonder about because, yes, I see spirits. Yes, I hear spirits. I'm still skeptical of that.
Yeah.
And not just other people, but in myself. Am I truly seeing what I say I'm seeing? I'm not 100% sure if when I see a spirit, is it really that spirit or is it something else?
Yeah. I think we all question each other, right? Like we question ourselves, but
Right.
at the same time, when you realize that there are other people that actually see and experience the same things, then yes, you question yourself, but you feel a little better about what you're seeing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So have you heard of any other cryptid type creatures in your area or aliens in your area?
Yeah, every once in a while we do get stories of aliens, and I think it's because we really, I mean, we're a community on the water. We're right on Lake Simcoe, which is quite a large lake. We have all kinds of sightings of the Lake Simcoe monster. We just had a local author actually write a book about sightings of the Lake Simcoe monster. And we also get a lot of reports of aliens and alien creatures up here, which is interesting. And this goes as far back as people up here can remember. And even now, we get stories of aliens over the water. As a matter of fact, Georgina Island, Snake Island, which is another small island off the coast here, it's really interesting because in 1991, now we're going back now, I actually interviewed this man who told me that he believes that there is an alien launch pad at the base of Snake Island, underneath Lake Simcoe. And he's not the only one. He was the first one to tell me something like this at the time. But since then, I've actually spoken with a lot of people, and they truly believe that the water has something to do with it, and aliens and alien vessels are going into the water. They're coming out of the water. They've shared some really cool pictures of things in the sky. So we have it all up here. I think it's the water. There's something in the water, Denise.
So what does the monster of the lake look like?
It looks kind of like a Nessie type creature. So it looks like some kind of a large, I guess, lizard type creature. And it's really weird because this man who wrote this book about the Lake Simcoe monster, he actually used a picture that one of our team members took of the lake, and it absolutely looks like there's something in the lake. And it was an inadvertent kind of shot. We were taking a picture of what it looked like, where we were in the cemetery. We were doing an investigation, and it was beautiful. It was sunset. It was gorgeous. And it looks like there's two humps in the water. So that was kind of cool. But it's a serpent like all of those other ones.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were just talking about that the other day because, he said something about Nessie, and I said, well, what about Chessie and the Chesapeake Bay? And then you got the Lake Champlain monster, and then so I started making fun. So here we are, another situation where we've already talked about this recently.
That's funny because I grew up in Montreal, and my family would always go to, Burlington or Winooski in Vermont, or we go and we visit my uncle. And of course we'd have to go over Lake Champlain. And as a kid, I was terrified that I'd look and I'd see Champ.
Yep.
So there you go. And now I'm living with a monster apparently in this lake. So
yeah, when I was growing up in Baltimore, we had Captain Chesapeake.
Oh, I love it.
And he would be on every day doing cartoons, and with him there was a puppet that looked like the sea monster.
I love it.
And so, and I don't remember if its name was Chessie or if it was something else, but the life of me, I have to say it was something else. I don't think it was Chessie, but seeing that and then hearing about the sea monster that they say is in the bay, I kind of have to laugh. Here we do have to be concerned about sea monsters. We have alligators and big snakes and all kinds of other stuff. So we do have something similar to a sea monster, we have to be afraid of. I don't go in water. I can't see my feet.
No. No,
and if I
wouldn't
can't
either.
And if it's shady on the sides, I don't want to go in either.
No. I wouldn't either. I would be afraid of all of those types of creatures. It's like we always say we're more afraid of things like that than we are afraid of, ghosts and the dead.
Yeah.
Be more afraid of the living than the dead.
Yeah, I don't want to be dead
No.
from something that I could avoid. But this past weekend, we went down to Dauphin Island in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
And it's really not down there that far from here. It's almost kind of not far. So south.
Right.
And go to this place. And we've been there before. We went there on vacation when Ruby was little. And while we were there, the water was really murky. And I didn't want to go in. But where we were at this one point, you could not see more than this far into the water. Okay. So that means the water was probably about this deep. So I'm out there and I'm standing on the shore and I'm going out there and I'm picking up hermit crabs, just seashells are fun, but if they got something living in them, you don't take them home because they stink.
Yes.
But I get the crabs and I bring them up on the shore so I can watch them go back into the water.
Yeah.
We're walking down and we see this thing about this big around in the water.
Stingray.
It was a stingray. Our daughter, she's gotten pictures of them at the beach, here where the water's clear. You can see them swimming by. I hadn't seen any in years. I don't know how many years it's been. But this was the first time I'd seen a baby one.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, thank God I didn't just walk in the water barefoot like I always do.
That thing would take off before you got near it.
It didn't. It did. It felt us walking, so it took off anyway. But how many other things are in the water that I could have stepped on? I mean, even the hermit crabs alone, the shells were hard enough to mess up my feet. But we were looking at all this, and it was like, boy, that's really murkier than we remembered, first off.
Right.
But they were dredging out in Mobile Bay to make more pull up the sediment so they can use it for filling in the swamp. So a whole different story, but it was really neat seeing these. Okay. So while we're on the island, we had the idea that we wanted to investigate. I had brought some investigative equipment with us, and it was raining, so we couldn't do a lot.
Right.
It rained off and on, and we want to call it Mosquito Island. We got attacked by mosquitoes. But historically speaking, I was telling Carl this before the show, that its original name of Dauphin Island was Massacre Island.
Massacre Island.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And it was when the settlers found it in the 1500s. We don't know how long ago, the indigenous people were out there.
Right.
But
think about 1400.
But the thing is when the settlers came, the ground was covered in bleached white bones, oyster shells, and pottery. So they assumed from all this that it was quite possible that somebody had come and massacred all these people. Well, upon later on somebody going out there and looking around, they found all these mounds. It was actually burial ground for the indigenous people. And a hurricane came through and wiped off the top of a few of these mounds and scattered the bones, pottery, and oyster shells everywhere.
That's fascinating.
So they named it Massacre Island because of what they thought happened there, not what truly happened there. So we go back and it's beautiful. We could have walked through there in the rain and not got wet. That wasn't the problem. It was just
thick.
The mosquitoes were that bad that I told him, I said, I bet you I can beat you to the car.
Take off running.
It was bad. I mean, I was telling Carl before the show, I have mosquito bites that look like bruises on my legs.
Oh, geez.
So it was bad. We also went to a graveyard there, and this graveyard, we had to walk. There was no parking. So we walked to this graveyard, and the earliest grave there was 1844.
Wow.
So pretty old for that far to be marked. Okay.
Right.
We all know that there's probably graves there that aren't marked, but they have 2 graveyards. We only got to check out one, and we're walking around, and I'm taking pictures of different things. I'm seeing that I want to research it later.
Right.
Because there are so many great stories or stories that need to be told from the graveyard.
Yes. I totally believe that and I agree with that.
I think that the story was told once. I'm in a Facebook group that is excellent. That people go out to the graveyards and then they research the people that they took pictures of their graves and tell you the stories that they found. And I think that that's amazing because it's keeping people alive in a different sort of way for all of us. But while we were out there, it was strange. We were being watched, and there were some spirits out there that were confused as to who we were because we didn't know anybody there. And why would we be there? And I mean, I had a couple ask that question. Why would we be there? And the only thing I could think of was to learn about you, and it wasn't a very big graveyard. There might have been, I think there's 80 to 100 graves there. The bulk of them were not marked. Yeah, I looked it up on Find a Grave. That's the only reason I know how many there were. But there were some really sad stories in this graveyard. Do I think that any of the people that I ran into that were dead, the sad stories? I do. I just don't know which ones they are. But this one woman that I ran into that was dead, of course, she just kept wanting to know why we were there, why we were bothering her. And the thing is, we weren't bothering her at all. Okay. We were just taking pictures and kind of dodging raindrops at the time. So have you ever investigated a graveyard that you felt needed more not investigating, but more stories to be told about it?
Well, it's really ironic that you're asking me that question because every year we go on a public walkabout through one of our graveyards here. And we have so many. I mean, this is an old area. Well, old, quite old. And it's interesting because we're a paranormal society, but we truly believe that there's so many important stories that need to be told, and many of them begin and end at our local graveyards. And we have a lot of pioneer cemeteries up here. So we do this every year. We bring our heritage coordinator with the town with us, and she talks about the history of the people that are buried there, the history of the graveyard, and she looks at things from an historic perspective. These things are so well attended. A lot of the public come because they're interested in learning more about the people that are resting there, the history of all of the area, because really you learn so much about the area by revisiting and visiting the people that rest there. They have stories, and the stories are fascinating. You learn so much about your area. We're actually going on a walk in a couple of weeks to a cemetery actually where my father is buried. And that cemetery has been around for a long time. I'm going to say 100 years plus. In Canada, 100 years plus is old. In the US, I mean, I stayed in an inn, I think, in Salem that was 300 years old. But yes, we visited a graveyard that is called, well, it's a graveyard that's attached to a church here in a place called Roche's Point, called Christ Church Cemetery. And it's interesting because every time we go there and we walk around, we feel that there's so much more that the people who are there want to tell us. And I had gone there with Chris, one of my team members, who's a clairvoyant. So we went there to test some equipment and to walk around, just her and me. And there were so many guardian spirits there, again, saying to Chris, like, what the heck are you doing here? You don't know anybody buried here, so why are you walking around here? And it was a really fascinating experience, because when you read some of the gravestones, there are names that you recognize, and names from street names, and locally, and you wonder, well, who are these people? Why are they buried here? But I had a weird experience at that place, because not only were we followed by all of these guardian spirits, and there were definitely more than one, I was followed home by something, definitely a large, dark figure. And I did something that paranormal investigators should never do. I didn't protect myself properly. So it was one of those nights where it was raining and kind of misty, and we didn't want to get the equipment wet or anything. So we kind of took off quickly. She went her way, I went my way. But when I got home, I was in a big hurry. So rather than do what I normally do, which is before I even get in the house, I say, okay, if there's anybody following me, you're not allowed to come in. You're not welcome. You need to stay out. I didn't do that. So I ran in, of course, like an idiot, and and I put away everything, and everybody was already in bed, and I brushed my teeth, didn't think, crawled into bed, and then felt something standing over me. Very dark, very tall. I knew it came from the cemetery, and probably it didn't want me to be there in the first place. Likely a guardian spirit. I don't know. It didn't feel very light. It felt very dark. And I thought, okay, Linda, you got to do something about this. But I felt that not only did it follow me because it didn't want me to be there in the first place, and wondered who this person was and where I came from, but I got the sense that it almost wanted me to go back there with it, because there was more that I needed to find out. There was more that I needed to learn. So I think cemeteries are the perfect place to do that. I think there's stories there that need to be told. And it's so important to do that. I mean, it is, but you have to be respectful. And that's the thing that people often don't understand, especially, this is going to sound mean, but especially those little kids, who want to be Zach Bagans or they run around with equipment or not, and they just don't respect the environment. And I find that so horrible. And I think people need to learn that these are environments that need to be respected, and they're guarded by things that we can't see, and things that will follow you home.
What does your husband think about you being a paranormal investigator?
Well, it sort of came with me. So he's okay with it. Very interesting in that he was always very skeptical. When we first met, it was interesting because we met at McGill University in a course that we both didn't want to take. and it was called Literature of the Romantic Era, which was perfect. It was hilarious. But anyway, so it was really odd because when I first told him that I was into all of this stuff, that look he gave me is, one of those recognizable looks, kind of like one of these.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I think he just realized that this was just part of who I was, that I was something I was passionate about, and I've been passionate about since I was little. So he's very respectful of it. He's curious about it, and he was very skeptical until he had some experiences of his own that he could not explain. And recently he had one, and it freaked him out completely. And he said to me, I don't know how you do this stuff, because this really freaked him out. We have his office, which is in our alcove, in our bedroom. And he has 2 screens for work. So he still works from home ever since, that big COVID, as they call it. He still works from home. And he has 2 screens that he uses. One's on a laptop and another one is a huge big monitor for what he does. And the little laptop, every time he finishes work for the day, he just clicks it shut, turns everything off and walks away. And this laptop opened by itself quite a few times, which I thought was really interesting. And that completely freaked him out. He said, and it wasn't Hamlet. I'm sure it wasn't Hamlet, the cat. I'm sure it wasn't Ophelia, the other cat. I don't know what it was, but
scared of an old boss that thinks he needs to get back to work.
Right? But he said to me, why would it not click shut and stay shut? And I said, I don't know. But it is true that when we got up in the morning and walked past the alcove, that laptop was open. And I said, so start thinking about what that means, because have you met your quota? Somebody's telling you something. I don't know. But it really freaked him out. So he's okay with it. He's okay with what I do. But he said to me, just don't bring it home again. Just don't.
That sounds fair.
Does he ever investigate with you?
No, he's never investigated. I've asked him if he wanted
to drag him out.
Right? And he's like, no, not going to happen. He said, no, I'm too scared. I'd be running out the building. So no.
Well, we have a question here from Haley Nielsen. She asks, what kind of way do you use protection? Do you use crystals, a little ritual, setting an intention? How do you do that?
Various ways. My team we have many people that have sort of different spiritual persuasions. So I always start out with just a little, intention exercise. So I just say out loud, just feel yourself being protected by white light or whatever you feel is your best way of protecting yourself. We have some people who pray. We have some people who just say, okay, that's it. I'm just putting a little shield around myself and you're not allowed to invade my space. We do have some people on the team that use, black tourmaline. They wear it around their neck. They have crystals in their pocket. But yeah, it's just a very intention-based protective shell that we go in with, because I truly believe that if you do go into a place, there are, those rogue spirits who will try to invade your space. And you've got to put up that barrier of protection that basically says to them when you walk through the door, this is my what is it? My paranormal resting bitch face, and you're not allowed in. So whatever you feel comfortable with. And I always tell people, if you're comfortable praying, that's great. If you're comfortable with, taking your crystals, that's great too. So whatever you feel that will protect you is what will protect you. So don't tell anybody, no, you need to do this. If they don't feel right about it, then it's not going to work for them.
Thank you, Haley, for your question. What's funny is that today I was talking to my boss about being on video, because I don't get on video. I said I'm on video enough. and we talked about how it drags down the bandwidth. And I said, and I would hate for my resting bitch face to be on there, and people would be going, what did we do? Why is she looking like that? And he started laughing. He's like, he goes, yeah, okay. And so I told him, I said, you don't have to worry about me pulling up, opening my laptop and going on video at any given time. It ain't going to happen. So I just kind of laughed that you said that. So we are so much in sync tonight. It's pitiful. And I just said that it was probably 2:30.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because I know I have resting bitch face. I know it.
Yeah, I know it too.
I mean, when I'm listening, I don't always smile. I just listen.
Yeah.
And trying not to think of the next question I want to ask. I want to, digest what's being said.
Right.
So if I look bitchy or witchy or whatever you want to say, it's because I'm listening.
I love that. But you know what? That was a really good question, though, about protection, because how I feel about that is how I feel about paranormal investigation in general, because, there's not one right way to do things. And I get so annoyed with some teams that have that kind of holier than thou attitude that, well, our way is the only way. And if you don't investigate our way, well, then what kind of a paranormal team are you? And I mean, honestly, I've seen that. I mean, I've been in this field for what? Okay, I'm going to give away my age, right? 43 years. And I think, oh, please, there's more than one way to investigate. Like, there's more than one way to protect yourself when you're going into a situation that, you're unsure of, or, the atmosphere is a little odd. Protect yourself the way that you feel you should protect yourself, and investigate the way that you feel you should investigate, but just be respectful and do it with integrity. That's all that I think needs to be done. Don't tell other people how you're supposed to do that, honey. That don't work for me.
Yeah. Everybody has their own way of doing things.
Yes.
And not everything is right. And so
not every location is you do it the same way.
Right.
I mean, what might work at some place may not work at another.
No, exactly. Exactly.
And all this is coming from the professional.
Mm-hmm.
The expert.
Oh, we all know how I feel about that.
Of course, everybody, I'm being facetious.
No.
Because, Linda was on Paranormal Survivor as one of their, as she says, experts.
It said it.
She was one of many experts that they had. But she's the one that I talk to the most. The other one that I talk to is Joe Citrone. Talk to him, about 5 or 6 times a year. Just he'll send me a message and we'll just start talking. But a lot of the stories that you guys, that you consulted on with them were, I know that a lot of them were within your own team.
Yes.
But then many of them were not. Was there any one story that you heard where you're going, why do I have to talk about that? That's stupid.
What's interesting is that I think, there were a couple of them. As an investigator, you'll know what I mean, where you read the case and you say to yourself, that's just like a duh.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, people have to explained this. I mean, this is just sort of it happens, and it's sort of a normal, ordinary thing as an investigator. It's like, it's as clear as day, but there are people out there who don't get it, and that's what we do, right? We try and explain it. But no, I don't think there was anything that was particularly, this is bananas. But I mean, there were some that were just self-explanatory. I mean, anybody would think that if you brought a plant home from a cemetery, it might be that might not be a good thing to do to plant it in your backyard, you know. Yeah, or it might not be a good idea, maybe, if you find a Ouija board in your attic, that you might want to take it out and start playing with it and summoning up the Bob. I mean, maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's sometimes we're watching these shows and they'll go, well, there was scratching in my walls.
Right.
Did you set out any mouse traps?
Right.
You know, I mean, it is strange how sometimes things are instantly paranormal when there could be 50 other explanations before you get to paranormal.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, how many times as an investigator have you gone to a house or a place of business or whatever, and they say exactly that? Yeah, we're hearing scratching in the walls, or we hear something in the attic. Well, did you call an exterminator?
Yeah.
So logical, right?
Are there squirrels in the area?
Or did you see that squirrel go down the tree
Right?
out on the limb and it up in your attic?
Right?
I just did.
We were only there like 10 minutes.
I know.
And we saw that, and these people were telling us that they had scratching in their walls. I was like, okay. And like right now, we've got these little weep holes, you know, because we got a brick house, and there's weep holes every 4 bricks, and there's a wasp that keeps going in and out. So that means that I have a wasp's nest somewhere.
Yep.
Is it big yet? Don't think so. But if I start hearing buzzing in the wall, then I know exactly what's going on. It happened at our old house. We had a beehive in the wall and we didn't know it.
Eek.
It died. I mean, all I had to do was wait for winter, and it was, you know about cold winters.
Oh,
So
yeah.
That don't work here.
that don't work.
Oh,
barely hit 30 here. So, but that's one of those things that, you know, if somebody had told me that they were hearing buzzing in their walls because of what's happened to us, I'd be going a whole different route.
Yes. People want that, though. They want to immediately jump to paranormal. They love it. They want to jump to that. I mean, it's like when you do a public investigation, and you know this better than anybody else, you know, people will walk out if something immediately doesn't happen, right? Because they want something to happen. They want that paranormal experience. So yeah, if they're hearing scratching in their walls, they're immediately going to say, oh man, that's paranormal because I saw it on that show.
That's, you know, if that's the case, that they really want to see something paranormal when they go to these places, they need to set that intent at the very beginning, when they get there, and say, okay, I'm okay with seeing whatever it is that you want to show me, but I really need to see it in the first 5 minutes or I'm going home. They just need to set the intention at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, though. I mean, we've had some public walkabouts and public investigations where, you know, people have shown up and within 20 minutes, they're gone. They don't want to hear history. They don't want to hear, you know, stories. They want to see the real deal. I mean, they want to see something coming out of the water, or they want to see the ghost of, you know, the little girl that people have talked about on this particular property. They don't want to hear the stories. They don't want people to say, "Oh, this was my experience." They just want to see something.
But the thing is they may be limiting what they can see by wanting to see what everybody else has seen.
Yes, that's true.
And just because, I mean, like I've told him, I said, there's sometimes that I see stuff that has nothing to do with any of the stories that they've told. And that's because I went in there with, you know, an open mind and paying attention to what's around. You know, like when we did Ghost Adventures, I had told him, I don't know how many times, about the Native American that I saw in the yard. I said, I see him. He's out there. He's standing out there.
In the corner.
He was like like a sentry or a watchman, out there just standing there looking at, looking, doesn't interact. And when I said something on Ghost Adventures about that, so many people came out and said that's not part of the story. And it's like, well, it is now.
Wow.
Because if you'd been paying attention, looking in that part of the yard, you would see it. One person that I know of got a picture of something in that space.
Yeah.
And my goodness, she was about ready to fall off her chair when she showed it to me. Wow. And the thing is when I looked at it, I immediately knew exactly what it was. She didn't have to tell me where it was or anything. I said, that's him.
We didn't even say, we didn't even mention it.
I didn't mention where in the yard. I just said
she saw it too, and she started taking pictures. She was taking some pictures, and she saw it in the corner and took a picture.
Wow.
I said, why'd you take a picture in that corner? She goes, because I saw something.
Yeah, she saw a mist.
I wasn't sure what I was seeing.
Right.
Wow. And I thought, well, that's weird.
It was very odd, but it helped give a little bit of validation to me about what I'd been seeing. Is now here's somebody else who's seen it, and that just shows that just because this is the story, that doesn't mean it's the whole story.
That's true. That's so true. So true. But I love when people share all of their stories, because that's why we've got public meetings. We always have public meetings. Then they're free. They're open to the public. Anybody can come, and we hold them at a funeral home, which I love. I think it's great. And they give it to us for free. We have the use of this reception room at this funeral home. We've been doing them since, I'm going to say 2014, I guess. But it's great. Public meetings are wonderful because people gather when they know that it's a safe place to share these experiences, and they really feel validated. And I think that's so important because there's so many people. They want to share their stories, but the people around them don't want to hear it, or they think, well, you're weird or you're crazy, or, oh, there she goes dipping into the sherry again,
Well, it's not just that not that they may think she's nuts, she or he is nuts. They may feel like if I tell this to them, they're going to think I am, so I can't say it.
Exactly.
And we were asked to speak at over in Foley in November, and I am so excited to do that. I've got to, of course, get all my ducks in a row and get all the stuff together. But I just think it's going to be fun to go over and talk to some people. And no, we don't have that many experiences here.
Yeah.
But we have had experiences all the way across the country. Not everybody can say all across the country. But a lot of, more and more people, that's what they do. They go on paranormal vacations now.
How many people show up at your meetings?
Well, when we first started, we didn't have that many. We would have maybe 15, 10, 15. But now we have, oh my goodness, 60 to 100.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
How often do you do it?
We do them bi-monthly, so once every second month. And what we try to do is we'll invite guest speakers. So if we have someone in the area that, for instance, we had the author that wrote the book about the Lake Simcoe monster. We had him speak. We had another local person speak about UFO experiences up in the area. We've had a couple of psychic mediums. We had, most recently, we had a death doula come and speak about what she does, which was really fascinating because our philosophy is that, yes, we're a paranormal team and people want to hear about ghosts and hauntings and stuff like that. But, it's more than just that. It's things that people might not think about, like a death doula. Maybe somebody has experiences regarding, after death or near death experience, and they wanted to share that with somebody. So I don't know, we bring in people that do odd things, weird things, and things that touch upon what somebody might, think might be paranormal. We had a dowser, a professional dowser, come on as well, to speak about what she does. And it was a fascinating evening. So we like to bring in all kinds of local guest speakers, and we find that there's a lot of cohesion. Like I don't know, there's this, I don't know, mind meld that happens. And people, I don't know, they love to share their experiences. They love to find out about people that do odd things. I don't know. The meetings are pretty phenomenal because now we really do get a lot of people, and
Yeah.
the funeral home too. They get a lot of calls like, so when's the next paranormal meeting?
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, you probably got, I mean, everyone showing up there is, pretty open-minded, I would say. So
yes.
How did you guys get started with that?
Sorry, how did we get started with it?
It's actually a good idea. We
Yeah,
ought to do something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
So how did you guys get started on doing these bi-monthly meetings?
Well, I had this idea when I formed this particular paranormal society, because I had worked with a couple of them in the past. I was assistant director of the Toronto Ghosts and Hauntings Research Society, and so many people would contact, the website with all kinds of questions. And then when I formed this one up here, I thought, how great would it be to actually have a gathering place every once in a while with the general public to get some questions fired at us, and we could do more research that way, find out more information about stuff, and really have a conversation with people out there in our town that have had these experiences and have some engagement and talk about what we do and why we do it. So it was just an idea that I had when I formed the Georgina Paranormal Society. And luckily for me, I actually used to be a church secretary. So I was the parish wench for a few years. And I got hobnob with the local, embalmers and funeral directors and things like that. So I had sort of a network of people that I did know and work with. And luckily for me, the relationship was really good and a friendly one. And we would talk about all kinds of things nebulous. And one of the funeral directors offered this brand new, because he had just renovated the place, brand new area that was, a reception room, nice, huge, big screen TV. So we could, hook up the laptop and people could send us videos and all kinds of things that they wanted to talk about and share with others. Is this something? Is this just dust? Or is this perhaps a spirit orb? Let's talk about it. And it just kind of escalated from there. So we were really lucky. And I was really lucky to have this really great network of people that, I could sort of go to for something like this. And what's really good is that the funeral director has just retired, and the people who've taken over are still allowing us to hold our meetings there for free, because it's a really great place to actually have a meeting. I mean, a funeral home, especially these days, is not just a scary place. I mean, it's a place to gather. More and more people are not having traditional funerals the way that, they used to be. It's more of a gathering place because people are having, celebrations of life. They're not having these sad, horrible funerals that they used to before. So it's kind of like a good place to talk about all of this stuff, because in the paranormal, we would talk to dead people, for goodness sake. So why not gather at a funeral home? It's not scary. It's an interesting place to be, right? So I just thought it was a really cool thing to do. And then now, I think once we had somewhere oh my gosh, I think we had about 150 people come. And I was stealing all the chairs from, the funeral director's office. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. We had no place for people to sit. So it's good. You guys should.
I guess word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Exactly.
Maybe the spirits told them.
That's right.
I could see that.
Yep. I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I may
good idea.
check and see what I can do.
I just, when she was started talking about it, I was thinking Mark might be interested in getting involved in something like that.
Yeah. We have
we could probably start off over at his little place.
We've got a friend who's a psychic medium, Mark Foltz, and we did a show with him. This was hilarious. we went to his location, okay, and we're sitting there, and it looks like this, like we're side by side, but there's a little white line between us.
Oh wow.
And it looked like we were in two different places when I was sitting right next to him.
Oh, wow.
And he handed me a doll, and it went across the white line. And everybody was like, what?
The comments went crazy.
So it looked like he was passing it through the screen to me. They didn't see the bookshelf that was there that was cut, and we were just sitting just perfectly in the center of this.
Yeah, the bookshelf actually divided you.
But it was hilarious.
Like
but he's the one that told this group over here in Alabama about me and Ron and said, talk to them. And so that's why we're speaking over there. They're doing it. It's for ladies only.
Oh.
And but here we're in our town, we have a church that used to be a theater. I wonder if they would be interested, but a lot of Southern Baptist Southern churches aren't really into this. So So Tom says we have a place here with mini golf in the basement of the funeral home.
I like it.
How about double or nothing? Well, one of my paranormal experiences was in a funeral home. It was when my dad died. And I told Ron, I mean, it's one of the strangest things. And for years, I didn't think my dad was dead. Because I had seen him there, walking around. Yeah, I saw him laying in the casket, but I saw him walking around. And it's like, I'd already been told not to say anything at this point. It's already been 4 days since my dad had died. And I was told not to say anything, but here we are. Everybody's walking around talking about my dad and my grandma and all these different funerals. We had people taking pictures of all of us plus the casket. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know why you guys are all sad. He's right here,
Yep.
And I could see him. And it took until probably 7 or 8 years before I realized he wasn't coming back.
I was going to say, did you see him? Did you ever see him after that again?
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times.
Okay, I thought you
But
did.
I mean, there were weird times when I would see him in public.
But you haven't seen your mom, have you?
I haven't seen her. She's busy. We're not going to get into that. My mom's busy.
Judy.
So maybe Donna. So she figured I was well taken care of.
That's right. And you are.
And so, yeah, she's not worried about me.
No.
And I'm not taking it personal. She's just busy taking care of other things.
Yeah.
But again, with my dad, it was, I didn't know then that if it was a spirit, I didn't see feet. If I had known that then, it might have saved me some time. And I would have believed that he was gone. But I kept swearing to my mom that dad was faking it just to get, just so he could go live his life without us.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So
you said you saw spirits until you're 8 or 9 years old, and then you quit. Now, when you saw them, did they have feet?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And as a matter of
That's
fact,
weird.
I know it's
A
odd.
lot of them say that.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't have feet. Yeah, it's odd how that works because I did an investigation in this house where this woman was seeing this elderly lady that was going up and down the stairs and upstairs in the hallway, and we were there all night. And then when we packed up our equipment, I was standing there with another girl, and it got cold, and I thought, uh-oh. And of course, this old woman came walking down the stairs, and she glided down the stairs
Mhm.
and went out the front door. She was as solid as you and me, but again, she had no feet. And that's when I thought, oh yeah, they don't have feet, right?
Huh.
Mhm.
That's weird because that's what Denise says.
Yeah.
They just don't have feet.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength because they don't have feet. And when I was a kid and I saw them, they didn't have feet either. So
Yeah. Wow.
And Tom, yeah, my dad was murdered, but I was still 10 years old and still believed that miracles happen, I guess, or that people lie. I mean, I guess even when I was young, I knew that people lied.
Yeah.
And you just never know what they're going to, what the true story is.
it's
You know, I mean, I've even had spirits lie about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder what they get out of it.
well, oh gosh, a few years ago, I'm going to say quite a few years ago, we got a hit on our website just about that topic. This gentleman told me that, and he was from the UK, and he told me that there is, or from what he was told, that there is a hierarchy of, like when you pass, kind of like there's a hierarchy here, there's a hierarchy there. And so you're not allowed to do things, certain things. You're not allowed to say things. You're not allowed to show yourself. And if you did, that there was some kind of a price to pay. And there are spirits that lie to you. And there are spirits that, are not particularly nice, but that there is a hierarchy. So I thought that was an interesting thing. How do you feel about that?
Well, Haley says trickster spirits.
Yeah.
But see, if I die, that's probably what I'm going to be. I'm going to be that sarcastic pain in the ass that's going to be making people guess. I just know it. And it's just because of the fact that
My cat's trying to make me jealous.
That I have a sense of humor. And I think that sometimes that trickster spirits might just be like me personally, and then there may be other ones that are just assholes that just want to move your keys and
say they're a lot like they were in real life. So
Exactly.
That's okay. I'll be losing my phone and my keys even when I'm dead. So
I love it. Me too. Yeah. You know what, Ron, you're right. I think that, in death, you are what you were in life. I mean, if you're going to be a pain in the ass, you're going to be a pain in the ass when you die. And I believe that 100%, because I remember as a kid thinking, yeah, like, why wouldn't you, if you're going to tell jokes and be funny, why wouldn't you do that after you're dead? I mean, of course you would. Of course you would. It's just, it stands to reason. But so many people don't believe that. And I question that. And I do think, you never know. I mean, there could be a hierarchy. I mean, we don't know. We're not going to know all of this, any of this, until we're actually gone. I mean, until a dead guy, taps you on the shoulder and goes, hey, let me tell you about the nature of reality. We're not going to know. And that's the thing. I mean, this is not an exact science.
Yeah, Tom says we should all have a special code word when we die to confirm. The thing is, Tom, is my mom had one. I haven't heard from her yet. And on Ghost Adventures, somebody had a code word too. And it did come through there.
They claim it did.
Yeah, they claim it did. But the question is is there a rule, in the book of the recently dead, deceased,
Yes.
like on Beetlejuice, is there something that's keeping them from telling us that answer because it's forbidden for us to know until we die?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what this gentleman was trying to tell us, that, yeah, there were consequences if somebody divulged too much information. And I thought that was an interesting concept.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
make total sense, because if we knew, um, all of it, then, I mean, really,
What's the point in living?
exactly. What's the point?
Yeah.
Sense.
So that's just telling us that some of the things that we watch for entertainment might actually have some reality based in them that we don't know. I mean, like Ghostbusters. You got Dan Aykroyd, who's a fourth or fifth generation paranormal investigator,
Yep.
paranormal experiencer.
Yep.
There may be some validity to some of the stuff that they said on how spirits are perceived in the movies. Do
Yes.
we know that? No, we don't know that, but we have to take what we do know, 5 generations, and he's a really smart guy. So we have a question here from Carl, and he asks, why haven't all the paranormal people who have passed, why haven't they told us?
Maybe they're not allowed to tell us. And that's the key issue here. Maybe they're not. So if what's right, if this gentleman from the UK was correct, and his, his spirit guide or guides or whoever they were telling him that there are repercussions if they come back and they tell us too much, then that's the reason why we just only know little glimpses into all of this stuff. We don't know the actual facts. We know maybe some of the facts, but we don't know them all. And we're trying to piece together all that information, right?
Yeah, we have
Say we got to piece it all together.
We have an investigation coming up in October, in a friend of ours who's passed. It was one of his favorite places. He loved Ashmore Estates.
Oh.
And so we are going to have some of his favorite people are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Ron, David, and he knew Carl and Gary. So it'll be interesting if he comes through there. I know that he's not going to tell us the meaning of death and what's after that. I know he's not going to tell us that after Shrine Park guy. He'll probably be an asshole to us because that's his fun way of teasing everybody. But I'm looking forward to a lot of laughter in this investigation coming up in October with Rick. I know he's going to show up.
Yeah.
I'm not always sure of who's going to show up, but in this case, if I don't dream about him or see him the week before we go, I will be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they tell us what they can. I really do. I think they tell us what they can and what they're allowed to do. And I mean, it's got to be a difficult thing, I think, for them to come through. There's a barrier there. And I think sometimes it's just really difficult to get through that barrier, whatever it happens to be. And we won't know what it is until we're actually there and we're trying to reach through it. But it's interesting that this gentleman, again, from the UK, told me that spirits sense people and know people that are sensitive themselves by their brightness, that there's a bright light about them. And there are people that have different colors about them as well, which I thought was fascinating because we've often heard that from a lot of the spiritual mediums that we have dealt with and that we know. And I myself often refer to it like that. Like, boy, that person must be sensitive because there's some sort of light that's coming from that person. So to be told something like that was interesting as well, that they can sense who can pick up on them, who's sort of more in tune, whose little antenna can maybe go up a little higher than some other people.
Yeah, my little quisp antenna will come up.
Yep. And just be careful if you're going apartment hunting. If something answers the door with antennae, that's not the antennae that you're looking for. Just saying.
Not planning on apartment hunting anytime soon, thank goodness. But when you say color, are you meaning aura type color?
I think so. I think that's what he was referring to, that different people have different colored auras. And it's through that, recognition, I guess, of all of these colors that spirit knows who it might be able to communicate with more effectively. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I always wonder who gives the meaning to the colors.
There was somebody at a Paracon, they said they could read each person's colors, their aura.
Interesting.
Where was that one at?
Probably.
I don't know. That was kind of interesting.
Was that at
I don't remember.
Springs?
It could have been.
We don't go to that many events, but the ones we went to, we can remember easily enough. So, is that another question? Haley has another question. She goes, "Do you think this light changes, like maybe some dim throughout their lives, or could get brighter?"
That's a good question. Hi, Haley. I know Haley. Yeah, actually, I do think so. I think that with experience, for instance, children come through with a bright light. And I truly believe that before it gets tainted, with all the dogma and all the stuff that we kind of feed them, they're really bright and they know things like animals. They know things that we might not know, and they see things that we might not see, and they experience things that we may not see, but then that light kind of fades. But I think that light can get brighter as we kind of learn more and we experience more throughout our lives. And I think if we open our minds to possibilities, if we're open-minded, I think that it can get brighter. And I think that people are drawn to knowing more and, experiencing more. And the more we experience, the more we know, the more we read, the more we watch, the more we experience, the more we listen to. I think our light can get a lot brighter. And I think spirit can see that because, of the very nature of, I guess, existence, whatever you want to believe. But I also think that people can see the brightness as well. So if you're tuned in, you will be attracted to people who are as well tuned in. So yeah, I think it can get brighter. I really can. It really can. And when you're a kid, it's the brightest ever.
And I agree. I also think that it can dim. Yeah. I think somebody who has a really bright light, if they're sick, it's going to dim some. Yes. Or if something is draining their energy, it's going to dim some. Just like the battery's going dead in your flashlight, it's gonna go lighter and lighter, darker and darker until it's all the way out. Let's hope that's not the case, but things happen, because I know sometimes I'm not as bright and cheery as I am today. Sometimes I'm a little bit cranky, or I don't feel good. This is one of those days. I'm a little cranky. I'm tired. I was up half the night with a 3-year-old. Nobody should be up with a 3-year-old at our age. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
But I did love every minute of it.
Yes.
But it's still, if you're a little tired, that's the time that you just don't go on a paranormal investigation. You probably, if you see that somebody's light is dim, it's probably not the best time for them to go on a paranormal investigation.
Agreed. And that's why you don't go on one if you're influenced by either drugs or alcohol or anything like that as well, because that taints who you are. It taints your vision. It taints who you are inside, your perception, all of that. It just taints it. You don't do that. Totally.
Mhm.
And you're right. If you don't feel well, don't expose yourself to that, because
Mhm.
energy is all around you. And if you're not feeling it, you're not well. Yeah, it's not a good thing. Agreed.
Yeah, and you can drain the energy out of the environment, and it'll match how you're feeling. The environment's going to feel like you.
Oh yeah.
So, because
100%.
I mean, you've seen people who, when they have a migraine, everything slows down around them because other people are aware that they have a migraine. So they're going to turn off the lights, or they're going to turn off the TV, and they're going to go do something else and stay away from you. And it's because that darkness that's in you at that point in time is pushing things away.
Yes.
And that's for your own safety. And that's what people need to realize. When your light is going dim, that's it. You need to walk away or relax and get it all back.
Yes. Agreed.
Or hello, Crystal. So
It's
my cousin.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
But where can everybody find you, Linda?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Georgina Paranormal Society. And there is a link on our Facebook page to our website. Oh gosh, you can find me anywhere. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me anywhere you look. Google, you'll find me.
Well, can you be found on Safari? No.
Well, you never know. I mean, stranger things have happened.
So, what events do you guys have coming up? When's your next meeting?
Well, we were going to have our first meeting of the season in September, but I will be going away to the UK on a paranormal tour.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun. So we're not having.
Where are you going? Where exactly?
I'm going to Edinburgh. I'm going to
Okay.
Wales, and I'm going to York in England, and Chester, and then to London.
Wow.
Who's your tour guide?
It's actually a local lady who is a travel agent, and she is pretty incredible. And she has planned this entire tour. So, we're going with her. I can't remember how many are coming, but my sister is actually coming on the tour, and she's a scaredy cat. So I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Take lots of pictures, and,
Oh, yes.
we'll talk when you get back, because that's
I gotta hear about that.
it's one of our bucket list places that we want to go is over to the UK and Ireland. And make sure you bring good walking shoes, a couple pair.
Absolutely. I'm going to pack my equipment as well. So that's going to be fun.
And a raincoat.
And a raincoat, a really good one. A really good one.
Yeah, because you're not going to want to carry an umbrella.
No, raincoat's better. Absolutely. I totally agree. But I'm looking forward to this. And in terms of investigations, we're not doing too much quite yet. But you know what? The fall's coming up. So we're going to have a lot of events that we're going to do. Cemetery walk is coming up soon. And I'll let everybody know when our next meeting is. So we're not sure yet.
And Crystal suggested that you bring a water bottle.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely something I'm going to bring. I have one that kind of shrinks, and then
Perfect.
So it's perfect. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Crystal's gone to England a few times. So
Cool.
And Ireland.
Scotland.
She brought back some scotch.
She brought proof back of Scotland.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we got to try it at a haunted location. Spirits.
Much later in the night.
Oh, and then one other time at our house.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we had video of that one. We did Facebook Live.
Unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You have
People
evidence.
got to see
I think that's why we gave up drinking.
This is the face.
Uh-oh.
And I'm really good at it.
I could see that. It's good.
It was horrible. But, we had
a few.
We had fun though. I'm not a scotch drinker, so I was just being a good sport.
Well, I know you, and you are a good sport.
So, guys, please join us here every Monday night on the Paranormal Pride, and you can see us here, wherever you're watching us at. But make sure you check out the Things Network Bill of Rights Network,
Treat.
the Paranormal Pride YouTube and Facebook. Check us out on Rumble at Born TV and join us tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central when we have on a guest I've had on before on the Paranormal Pride, Cindy Sauer. You guys may remember her from The Exorcism of Cindy Sauer. She was also on quite a few other shows talking about that. I think she was on A Haunting. I'd love to hear what's going on in her life now since The Exorcism again. But if you guys want to do a little homework on her, check it out. Her name is Cindy Sauer, Sauer. And check it out. And I guarantee you're going to have tons of questions for her tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central. Same places that you're watching this now. Just make sure you join us then. And join me next Monday night at 7 p.m. Central. I hope everybody has a great night and see you tomorrow.